So you guys seem to enjoy my last video about what Chinese students are getting up to in the UK. I saw a lot of comments from people saying like, yeah, it's in America, but it's mad. You know what I mean? It's mad. And I want to make it very clear that like to any Chinese person viewing, bro, listen, I'm not a racist, bro. I don't hate China. I'm not anti-China, okay? Because at the end of the day, we're all human, bro. This is just what people are doing right now. We're all products of our environments, okay? And I need to clarify that I know not every Chinese student is involved in this. There are Chinese people who have worked hard to send their kids to the West to give them a great education. I very much understand that. Like, I've actually always wanted to go to mainland China. I've always wanted to go to Chengdu. Chengdu looks like a lit city. And Chongqing. I've wanted to visit them too, definitely. And when I was in Hong Kong, I could have done this, but I was only focused on my British passport, where obviously you need a visa to go to China. I didn't realize that if I used my Grenadian passport, I would have had 30 days in there visa free. And after my last video on that, sicko has just started going mad. You know, I don't think I can go to China now. It wouldn't be the smartest decision to make. You know, I mean, anyone from China, comment down below if you think I'll be all right in China, you know, because I'd love to go. I'd literally just go there in a few months because the flights are cheap as hell. Like, if you plan on traveling to Asia, like stopping off in China is like half the price of getting a direct flight there, you know, so it's like, why would I not want to do it? But today, guys, we're going to be talking about Chinese influence in Africa, and more specifically the fraud that is going on in Congo, because it is getting out of control, and it's been out of control. Now, I'm sure most of you guys have heard of the Chinese Belt Road Initiative, and pretty much it was China pledging to invest over $1 trillion across 60 countries, and that covered a lot of countries in Africa. Over the last 2 decades, China has established a significant economic presence in most African countries. Its lucrative economic investment package, flexible political approach, and focused the big ticket development projects under the BRI provide an ostensibly massive opportunity to African countries. I've never heard the word ostensibly before. Hold on. This is what I do. Ostensibly. From appearances alone, the child is seemingly healthy, but the doctor is concerned. What? Okay, let's check Cambridge. Let's check Cambridge. Ostensibly. In a way that appears or claims to be one thing when it is really something else. Okay. All right. Okay. Now that definition on the browser made sense. He has spent the past 3 months in Florida ostensibly for medical treatment, but in actual fact to avoid prosecution. Okay. All right. Okay. Got it. You learn something new every day, guys. I don't know if the majority of you, some of you watching are thinking, how the hell do you not know what that word means? But maybe some of you watching this video learned a new word as well, ostensibly. However, the unilateral nature of the initiative, the lack of transparency and accountability to African countries, and the absence of projects that directly benefit locals have raised suspicion and fueled local resentment. There are increasing instances of African countries cancelling or postponing BRI projects over rising debt concerns. This brief discusses the nature of BRI specific. Okay, all right. So that's a good summary of what China's been doing, because people need to remember China is a superpower, bro. Russia is a superpower, but realistically, the two main superpowers are China and America. You see in America how they're doing all these cuts to US aid, and they're making out like it's a good thing, when in reality, because America is a superpower, they need to do these things to keep growing as a power or to even maintain their position. Because when you're a superpower, when you're top dog, everybody's trying to come for your spot, bro. You need to remember that, like. And superpowers do not do anything without expecting a return. You know, if China goes and builds a railway in I don't know, Sudan, and that railway helps a bunch of people be able to, you know, travel and improves hundreds of thousands of people's lives, China don't really care. China doesn't care about that. No superpower actually cares about doing that, because them doing that helps build you up and adds more competition. In reality, China builds that railway track in Sudan. It will be built by Chinese workers. So the locals aren't getting any experience in building this infrastructure, which is so valuable. Education is key. And also, if China's building it and China's using Chinese materials, or they're using materials attained by Chinese companies operating in Africa, that money is not going to the local economy. And once the railway's built, oh yeah, China paid for it. But no, what they paid for it is a loan to the country. And that loan has interest. So Sudan has this great fancy railway, okay, but you still have people who can't afford to use it. You know, how are you gonna pay back that loan? There's no infrastructure that's been built around there that's benefited the people, so the people have more money to go and pay to use this system to help pay back the loan. So it's literally just an entrapment. But in Africa, I remember like years, like maybe even a decade ago, there was this narrative spreading like, oh, forget the West has never done good for us, we're gonna side with China now. I think this is terrible. It's detrimental. Could even be worse than Western imperialism. And we're going to show you why it could be worse. Because this is just what's coming out of Congo. This is just stuff that's coming out, all right? Majority of it's never going to come out. But there is wide-scale fraud going on with Chinese companies in Congo. Now, you guys know what's happening in Congo at the moment. These M23 rebels have started, like, they're making ground on taking over parts of Congo. And now my friend who's Congolese, he hasn't got a clue what's going on there, you know? But when I was in Birmingham, like nearly 2 months ago, like around not long, I don't remember when I was. I think it was in February when I went to Birmingham and I stayed in a hotel there for the day. The night manager was a Congolese man. He had a strong accent. I asked him, I'm like, brother, where you from, my bro? Where you from? And he said, oh, I'm from Congo. And I'm like, oh, tell me about what's going on there, you know, because here you want to hear, like, whenever you hear news of something going on in a country, ask somebody here that is actually from that country what is going on, and they will tell you exactly what it is, because they actually know their politics. They know what's going on out there. And we all know that whatever group that the West isn't siding with, especially in countries in Africa, is usually the group 99.9999999 an infinite 9% of the time. They're the group that has the best interests of the people, because the West benefits from, you know, these regions being destabilized. Well, I say the West, but it's these corporations, you know, it's these corporations at the end of the day. Because I'm sure if I asked Jamie from Essex what he thinks about this, he would say just leave the Congolese people alone. But all these corporations chase is money. But he told me that the M23 guys, he said they're the good guys. He said they're the good guys. The group backed by Rwanda, he said these are the good guys. If you read the article, it says, oh, people have been forced to fled their homes, they've taken control, this, that. I've been told by a Congolese man that these are the good guys. This is how much they've taken over right now. Because Congo's been destabilized for so long, it's in corporate interest to maintain the power of, like, the current government there. You know, you've got these groups funded by France, funded by the UK, funded by China, all fighting, and that's like, no. Let an African country deal with a problem going on in Africa. They know what's going on. They will deal with it. Okay, let them deal with it. It might take a long time. Let them deal with it. Okay, let them deal with it. Now, Chinese companies in Congo, they've been caught extracting hundreds of millions, but it's definitely in the billions. We know how resource rich Congo is, yet the average yearly salary there is like less than $500 a year. 75% of the population in Congo has to survive on $2 a day. That is absolute poverty. Now, this is David Douay. Now, it's been very hard for me to find a picture of this guy, you know, because businessmen, they love to remain low-key. But this is a picture of David Douay, and that is a snapshot of his passport. This is him in 2012, allegedly. This is him visiting a sicko mine site. And my Congolese friend who's been to Hong Kong with his father not long ago, he told me when he was at the airport, there was bare Chinese man there, bare Chinese people. Well, David Douay had a great relationship with the former president of Congo, Joseph Kabila. This man, this absolute fraud of a human being, this guy. It says that David Douay moved $65 million through his shell company accounts at BGFI Bank, Democratic Republic of Congo, with help from a tight network of individuals representing private industry and government. David Douay's $1 million payments were subsequently routed through the global financial system via correspondent banks, including Citibank and Commerzbank. Now, Commerzbank is a German bank, and Citibank, I believe, are an American bank, but Citibank is absolutely everywhere. So these Western banks are involved in this. They were profiting off of this. Hey, my people, if you're enjoying this video, if you could give the video a like, it'd be very much appreciated. And if you could subscribe to the channel if you are new, it'd be even more appreciated. Thank you for watching anyway. The investigation found evidence of corruption showing that Chinese corporations colluded with power players in DRC to secure access to billions of dollars worth of natural resources, all with an assist from the world of global high finance. The world of global high finance is all these banks, like every major bank in the world. That is global high finance. David Douay was an ideal intermediary to ensure the success of the high-risk Sino-Congolese minerals for infrastructure project. The Century probe showed that David favored less than legitimate means to advance the Chinese enterprise's cause, moving millions of dollars through the CCC Congo Construction Company, a shell company with phony justification and sometimes even using apparently forged consulting agreements and invoices. This is fraud to the highest degree. The leaked banking records showed that Douay also apparently made use of a blunt instrument, bulk cash. This coincided with efforts to keep the deal on track. Several years and millions of dollars later, when international banks finally began asking questions, it was already too late. The international banks already knew what was going on. Banking people, they're more interested in their bonuses, so they will look the other way. Now, they paid this man $55 million, the Joseph Kabila, all right, the guy we just showed you. He was paid off with that. But they took the money back out when they realized people weren't messing with this guy anymore, and he was going to lose control of the bank and lose all his political power. Now, this is just one example of the fraud taking place in Congo, all right? We know Western banks are complicit in this. I say Western, but it's just these corporations. All they care about is money. As long as they can get away with it, they don't care. $55 million. Now, even in the Western world, that's still a hell of a lot of money, but it's not like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like billions to us, yeah? In a place like Congo, where the average yearly salary is less than $500. $55 million is crazy. Now, guys, we're not done yet. If you guys thought that was bad, in January 2025, at the start of this year, Congo's government launched a probe into the embezzlement of $300 million in a country where the average yearly salary is less than $500, guys. DRC has launched a probe into the embezzlement of over $300 million from state miner Geka Mines between 2012 and 2020. Now, Geka Mines is completely owned by the states, so they say. Geka Mines, which hold minority stakes in several of the world's largest copper and cobalt projects, which is their own country. You know, they're in Congo. It's not the world's, it's Congo's. Has long been dogged by accusations of corruption made by non-governmental organizations and opposition politicians. Not surprising there, is it? Because as we've seen, the politicians in Congo are being bought by China. But we're talking specifically about what's going on in Congo. Because at first it was the Belt Road Initiative. You know, we'll give you these loans, we'll invest, China knew that they could never pay back these loans, and China knew that the infrastructure that they built there was going to be useless. Or they might have strategically offered to build infrastructure that they know that they would be able to use to their benefit while entrapping the country in debt. And at the same time, increasing their leverage on these countries. It's all about leverage, you know? In 2022, they found that more than $400 million in tax advances and loans that Geka Mines said it paid to the National Treasury could not be found. It said in a report at the time that the missing $413 million were presumed to have been misappropriated and that auditors would continue their investigation. This is the company. This is a state-owned company, guys. Now, you're probably thinking, well, it's a state-owned company. What does China have to do with any of that? Well, unfortunately, Congo doesn't have the infrastructure to handle these big mining operations, you know? Once they mine the materials, it's like, okay, what are you going to do with it? Who are you going to sell it to? Because the Congo isn't built itself up to a point yet where, like, they can get these materials and demand that mobile phones be made in their country and that their people gain the expertise, which is something that the corporations would never do because they're not interested in investing in other people and making people's lives better when it doesn't benefit them. Why would they do that when they can just be like, okay, we'll go find this country, go find that country, go find here, go find that, go find work here, go do this, oh, it's cheaper over here, oh, it's more over here, oh, this, that, oh, you lot, we invested in you lot, now you're starting unions, now you want more pay, like, oh, let's leave here. That's how these corporations operate. So what does China have to do with it? Well, we've got 3 exhibits here. DRC, the Geka Mines, and its Chinese partner Inograt, a project of Desiwa without Albert Yuma. This is a translated article, by the way, guys. A joint venture created in 2017 and owned by the public mining company operator Geka Mines, 49%, and the group China Noferous Metal Company, 51%. Its state-of-the-art refining plant of copper and cobalt, which situated in the province of Lubalaba, about 35 kilometers to the west. This is a translated article of the city of Kolwezi. It has a capacity of 80,000 tons of copper and 8,000 tons of cobalt per year. So this is just one of the 3 joint ventures I can find with Geka Mines, because there are people who suspect that missing money has ended up in Chinese companies' hands, you know, because they're the majority shareholders. The state company is not even the majority shareholder. They don't even have the most say. You know, that 1%, that 1% means that they have the final say because they've got more of a percentage. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, they have the final say, but it means, listen, I am the majority owner here. You know, that's what that 1% is telling you. And we got Congo State Miner, which is Geka Mines, in production sharing deal with Chinese firm. It has signed a sharing deal for copper and cobalt deposit with Hong Kong XLN Mining, which will pay $40 million signing bonus. Now, I know this Hong Kong XLN Mining, it sounds like a Hong Kong company, but it could just be a company in China that has listed itself on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, you know, as Hong Kong Excellent Mining. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Let me know if you know about that. And this is all important because, as it says here, you know in China, they're leading the way with electric cars. You know, the West won't let you believe that, but China is light years ahead with electric cars. Their electric cars, the prices, it's on another level. The West can't compete. That's why they've had to out-tariff them, because if they didn't, there would be no electric car market built by Europe. And China's got how many? Over 1.4 billion people. They need to make these car batteries. Where are they getting these minerals from? They're getting it from Congo. That's why they have such an interest in Congo. China Norinco sweetens bid for Congo's copper mines as deal stalls. Norinco's $1.4 billion bid for Congo copper and cobalt mines. Do you guys see what I'm saying here? Yes, it's a state-owned company, but without these Chinese companies, this state-owned company wouldn't be doing much. But none of this is surprising. I even urge people to think about, like, you know, where they've invested their retirement money, you know, where you're investing for your future. future. Because does the UK seem like a safe place to have your retirement fund? Does it? Like, does it actually feel secure? Do you feel secure with your money being here, you know, with all your eggs being in this basket? Does it seem like it would make sense to diversify? Go through Hong Kong and try and invest, maybe put some of your eggs into a Chinese company. Now, we know with investing in a Chinese company, it's just very risky because of, you know, lack of transparency. The fact that China, like, there's too much power concentrated on just one man, Xi Jinping, and that the Chinese government is one government that puts its people first. If you're making an investment, you don't want to invest somewhere where they put people first. You want to invest in a country where all they care about is money and corporations are first because they're the ones with the money. That's why all these corporations ain't rushing to invest in China. I mean, I'm sure they are still doing their investments in China, but it's too risky. If I'm a major conglomerate in the West and I'm still looking, I mean, I've got unlimited money to invest, why would I not just try and keep investing it in the West, where I know that if any, like, I know how things operate. I know that I can buy politicians, you know, buy whatever, you know, just pay to make my interests be met and make my businesses make more money. In China, you can't really do that. Maybe if China becomes the next superpower, then it's going to get too much, and then they're going to, you know, become what America is. They're going to become their worst enemy. And a lot of these Chinese companies, a lot of them are owned by the state, you know, all of them are controlled by the state. Whatever the state says goes, and the state can make decisions rapidly out of nowhere out there. So let's say the company has debt after you've made an investment there. Company can't pay the debt, and the Chinese government just says, well, we're not going to pay the debt. And it's like, what, you can't do that? Yes, we can. Things like that can happen out there, bro. But we're not even done, guys. We're nearly done. Even the BBC had to cover this one. Chinese nationals arrested with gold bars and $800,000 in cash in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This article was published on the 5th of January 2025. 3 Chinese nationals have been arrested with 12 gold bars and $800,000, £650,000 in cash in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, officials say. The gold and money was hidden under seats of the vehicle they were traveling in, according to Jean-Jacques Peruzzi, the governor of South Kivu province. He said the operation to arrest the men had to be kept secret after the recent release of another group of Chinese individuals accused of running an illegal gold mine in the area. Eastern DRC has abundant, we know this. Again, propaganda, rebel groups. This is propaganda, because my Congolese brother that I met at that hotel in Birmingham, he told me these are the good guys, you know. He said that some of these dealers in precious metals enjoyed good relations with influential people in the capital, Kinshasa. And this is why the mission to carry out these latest arrests had to be kept quiet. Pretty much, they're saying corruption is happening in broad daylight. Last month, the governor told reporters he was shocked to hear that 17 Chinese nationals who had been arrested on allegations that they had been running an illegal gold mine had been freed and allowed to return to China. You have to have the right people in your pocket that can make that happen. They owed $10 million in taxes and fines to the government. The Chinese embassy has not commented on the allegations. Here's where they're approaching it wrong, man. Like, they're talking lawsuits, trying to do things, trying to, you know, play this system that's failed them forever. When the average person there is making less than $500 a month, and you have 17 people who owe your people $10 million, you're putting on the wrong suit. That's all I'm going to say. You're putting on the wrong suit. 3 Chinese citizens sentenced to 7 years in prison for illegal mining in Congo. This is a common occurrence. They're arrested on the 4th of January with 10 gold bars and $400,000 in cash. The government has said it's also working to secure better terms on a $6.2 billion mining contract with China, which authorities say has not been profitable enough for the Central African nation since it was signed in 2008. It has not been profitable enough for the country whose resources it is. If you look at China, man, they're building new infrastructure. They're on another level. China is not going to save you, Africa. It's not going to save you. They're not going to save you. Okay, they're not. God bless Ibrahim Traore, man. The way it's looking, he is the only hope for this continent. He is the only hope. This man. You don't know Ibrahim Traore? Research him. And people even say things like, oh, China will never be the next world superpower. Their population's aging, all this stuff like that. China will take care of their own people, bruv. That's what they do. China sees an aging population. It's like, yo, we need to boost our own birth rates. You guys that don't know, ethnically, I'm Grenadian from the Isle of Spice. There's a lot of Chinese influence going on there. Now, one of my uncles, well, my granduncle, who is, he's one of the, he's definitely one of the wealthiest people on the island. He's literally friends. I think he even went to school with the Prime Minister of Grenada. It's kind of mad when I think about it. But he goes to China and he does deals with China. He deals with the Chinese. He knows what he deals with them. Which is the reason why I'm going to start learning Chinese. Because Grenada is a small island, and yet there's a lot of Chinese people there. There's a lot of Chinese building stuff there. And it's like, what is going on? Like, they're pretty much segregating themselves in the island. And you have to think, you know, you have to think. Well, Grenada's found some oil, but they don't want that little bit of oil we found. Why are they actually here? We don't have to think back that long. If we go back to 1983, when the United States invaded our island. But why did they invade our island? You know, there's not resources there that are worth invading us for. I mean, we've got great spices, but that's not enough. It's because of our relationship with Russia at the time and our relationship with Cuba. What did they do? They invaded and they killed Morris Bishop, who was a leader for the people, who put the people first, which is the opposite of what America stands for. America is corporations first. And Cuba built our airport. Cuba was doing actually things that benefited the people there, you know? Because you know how America feels about Cuba, right? So America couldn't have that. And because Grenada, we're not far, we're like a 3-4 hour flight. We're not far from America at all. We're in great proximity there. If anyone were to go to war with America, the Caribbean would be a very strategic location to have a hold of. So like it or not, we would be dragged into this crap, you know, which is something that I think leaders there, we need to start preparing for that. You know, how are we going to just make sure we have no involvement in this war that we don't care about? Well, it's not looking good because we are constantly accepting help from China and letting China do what they want. Why is China doing that? To answer my initial question, it's strategy planning. That's the only reason why they would want to have some influence there. Because look, tensions, remember Taiwan, you know, China wants Taiwan. America doesn't want them to have Taiwan. China's at war with America. Grenada becomes a great location for Chinese ships, Chinese planes. You have to think about it like that, man. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comment section below what you think about what China are doing in Africa, man. Let me know. I like it, man. People give very insightful comments. I enjoy reading the comments when I make videos like this. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.